Hello, I would like you to turn to page 26 in your workbook, and hopefully you are coming to me after watching this video on prime factorization. Sometimes we need a couple different methods to learn how to work with prime factorization. It may be a skill that some of you are very, very good at already, and some of you may need a little more practice with it. And our target for this learning video is to be able to simplify a radical, and it kind of begins with prime factorization, so you want to be mindful of that. So in the video you saw this cake method of doing a prime factorization, which is really, really cool. And on page 26 you see the square root of 18 is our first example that we're working with. It's actually number 5 on your workbook page. But to take the square root of 18, one of the best ways to kind of start with that is to actually have the prime factorization. So here you saw the prime factorization of 18 was 3 times 3 times 2. So if we're taking the square root of 3 times 3 times 2, we can take the square root of pairs. So we know 3 times 3 is 9, and the square root of 9 is going to be 3. So this is, sometimes people tell the story of this pair breaking out of jail, right? And one gets out and the other meets his demise, so to speak. So what happens is one of the 3's breaks out, and what's left is just the 2 underneath the square root. So that's a kind of a little story of how you can use prime factorization and this idea of a partner or a pair of 2 numbers kind of breaking out of jail. Now, another thing that I like to do is, especially if you're really good at your factors and your numbers aren't too crazy or too big, one of the things I like to do is just look for the largest perfect square that might be a part of 18 or a factor of 18. So this is another way you can think of simplifying a radical. I know that 18 is the same as 9 times 2. I know that 9 is a perfect square root. So really what ends up happening is you're taking the square root of 9 and you're taking the square root of 2. The square root of 9 is just 3, and the root 2 remains. So you see in both methods you're going to arrive at that value. Okay? So take a minute and just pause the video. Try number 6 and actually try number 8. All right? And then we'll come back together and see how you did on those couple of problems. Okay, so pause the video right here, try those, and we'll see how we're doing on simplifying radicals. Well, welcome back. Hopefully you guys have tried number 6 and number 8. And one of the things you might notice about number 6 is that it actually is a perfect square. Now, if you didn't notice that, it's possible that you may have taken that 36 and maybe you said, oh, I know that 36 is the same as 2 times 18. And then I know that 18 is the same as 2 times 9. And I know that 9 is the same as 3 times 3. And these are our prime factors. And you see if you have them in pairs, when you're simplifying a radical, remember we can bust out those pairs. So one of the 2's comes out, one of the 3's comes out, and our answer is 2 times 3 or 6. Now probably an easier way to go about solving this problem is just to remember some of your perfect squares. Like, you know, the square root of 1 is 1, and the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3. So as you look at your perfect squares, we actually know that the square root of 36, that's just a good one to remember. as a perfect square. So you can kind of rely on your knowledge of perfect squares, or you can go through this process of working through your prime factorization. Now 343, just in case you tried this one, so you know your square roots on this one. When I tried to factor 343, I first tried dividing by 3. That didn't work, so I tried dividing. I know it's not divisible by 5. I tried dividing by 7, and it turns out that 7 times 49, whoops, it's not a very good 9. Fix that for us real quick. Is 343. So I know 49 is a perfect square. So if it was me, if I was doing this problem, I would change it to 7 times 49 and just take the square root of 49. And 7 root 7 is my answer. If the prime factorization works better for you, then go ahead and finish your prime factorization. Right, there are all your factors. You can bust out a pair. Remember, you only bust one out. And 7 root 7 is your final answer there. So a couple different ways you guys can simplify radicals. We need to have this skill because we're going to be working on Pythagorean theorem next. So maybe practice a few others. Make sure you have this skill down, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, guys.